Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here, your source for gaming, tech, emulation, and open source news. Let's get started. Alright, to kick things off, we're talking about Google and YouTube and Nintendo and, well, a whole bunch of not great stuff. So apparently a list of employee-reported privacy breaches at Google reveals that multiple Nintendo leaks originated from a Google employee who is accessing private videos on Nintendo's YouTube channel. Now, this specific example was from a while back, but according to 404 Media, and I'll drop a link to the article in the description below, a Google contractor used admin privileges to access private information from Nintendo's YouTube account about an upcoming Yoshi game in 2017. Which ended up turning out to be Yoshi's Crafted World, which came out in 2019. And here is the reported Reddit thread, and there's one very important tell in this image. In the address bar, which can be doctored, it does say admin.youtube.com, signifying it may be an administrator account. And in addition to all of that, it's been reported that Google accidentally recorded a whole bunch of children's voices and also ended up collecting a whole bunch of unintentional data from Google Street View. Honestly, I'm not surprised that someone who works for Google has the ability to take a look into Nintendo's YouTube account and see their private videos. What I am surprised about, though, is that that person would risk their jobs and possibly even more just to leak that information for some internet clout. Let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below. And let me know your thoughts about the possible privacy issues in the comments below. But moving on, and next up, we're talking about Vim's Lair, the DMCAs, and possibly an analysis of the situation. So Video Game Esoterica may know a thing or two about copyright law and a few other things. And they took a look at the DMCAs that Vim's Lair got, and they think that they are real. So by the sounds of it, Nintendo contracts this work out to a company like MarkMonitor, who in turn uses something like AI to try to take this stuff down. It's a very interesting situation overall. Video Game Esoterica theorizes there may be a heightened awareness around this stuff now, considering emulators are available on iOS. And Nintendo may want to spend some extra money to try to take ROMs off the internet. I'll drop a link to Video Game Esoterica's video in the description below, and I do recommend checking it out. It's a very interesting and I would say well-informed video. Next up, it appears there's a brand new Game Boy device that's about to hit the market. It's called the Chromatic. They say it's a handheld game console designed with modern tech, but with retro soul, compatible with the all-classic Game Boy and Game Boy Color cartridges. It appears it's going to be available in a whole bunch of different colors, and to be honest with you, I'm a little bit partial to the blue and green version. Anyways, they say it's the world's only 160 by 144 pixel sunlight readable backlit display, super scratch-resistant sapphire front crystal, magnesium alloy shell, ultra-durable PBT buttons, share gameplay moments with USB video out, and FPGA-based emulation to play games exactly as their creators intended. It does come bundled with Tetris, but the Chromatic is not going to be cheap. It's going to set you back about $200 USD. Let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below. And speaking about Game Boy, next up we're talking about a brand new emulator that's hit the App Store, XGBA. And this one does Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance. Now, I don't want to say this emulator is questionable. However, under the What's New section, they say we have removed tracking and ad features based on community feedback. Have fun gaming. So I'm wondering why exactly those tracking features were in there in the first place. But it appears the developers are at least trying to make things right. So at this point in time, it still seems as if apps like Delta and Sameboy and RetroArch are probably the better way to go. And speaking about questionable stuff, next up we're talking about a PS4 emulator that is apparently installing a coin miner. So the app is called PS4 eMuse. They say it's available for Windows, Mac, iOS, and Android. And I'd recommend staying away from this one at all costs. There are a handful of PS4 emulators out there currently, and they're all 100% free and open source, and they don't work with anything like Bloodborne just yet. They're all very early on in development. There are no PS4 emulators for iOS or Android. So if there is a PS4 emulator that seems too good to be true, chances are it's too good to be true. And if you haven't heard it from this channel, chances are it's not a real one. And speaking about weird stuff, next up we're talking about Kaspersky. And apparently Kaspersky has released a free virus removal tool for Linux, something that I didn't even think was necessary. It's worth pointing out that Kaspersky does not necessarily have the best reputation, especially especially when it comes to security. So back in 2017, Russian intelligence allegedly used Kaspersky's antivirus software to steal classified documents from the NSA. And both sides of the US government, Republican and Democrat, actually agree on the same thing here. They both don't like using Kaspersky. In fact, they're trying to ban it entirely. Moving on, and I forgot about this one, but here's just a heads up. Apparently, you can play Fallout 1 on a 3DS. I'm not joking with you, and it seems to work relatively well. If you are curious about this one and wanted to learn more about it, the information's up on the Fallout 1 CE 3DS GitHub. I'll drop a link to it in the description below. Version 0.0.3 is the latest update here. They've added linear texture filtering on the new 3DS and new 2DS, and they fixed the touch input. Moving on, and we're quickly talking about Fortnite, and Fortnite may have unintentionally created a pay-to-win model. So apparently the free cars are not as good as the paid cars, and you'll get killed faster in the free cars. This appears to be more than just a rumor, because Epic actually responded to Kotaku here, and they said, "We're aware of the issue and have a fix planned for an upcoming build." They didn't say what the fix was, and they also didn't say when the upcoming build is going to be. So to sum up the issue, the pay-to-win cars have a smaller windshield, making it harder to shoot the player through it. And I don't understand how Epic didn't notice this in the first place. I mean, it seems pretty obvious. Next up here, we're quickly talking about Mozilla Thunderbird, and if you use this email client, it's about to get a little bit better. So according to their dev blog, they're working on Rust-enabled builds, and they are very, very, very close to Microsoft Exchange support. On top of that, they're working on native Linux system tray support and a whole bunch more. And speaking about Linux, next up we're talking about one of my favorite Linux distributions, Linux Mint. And Linux Mint just published some monthly news with some very great news in it. So the big change here is for the software manager Mint Install. They say it loads faster than before and the main window appears instantly. Unverified Flatpaks are disabled by default. And moreover, if you enable unverified Flatpaks, it'll let you know if a Flatpak is unverified or not, so you don't mix it up with a verified one. Next up, if you're a fan of Microsoft Copilot, well, AMD's got a brand new chip for you. They've unveiled the next-gen Zen 5 Ryzen processors. So the new 9000 series of processors start at about 65 watts and end up at 170 watts for the 9950X. For laptops, they've unveiled the Ryzen AI 300 series of processors that have a privacy-focused and responsive AI. And these chips are between 15 and 54 watts. And the AM4 platform is getting two new chips, the AMD Ryzen 9 5900 XT and the Ryzen 7 5800 XT. To be honest with you, I am very curious to see how these new chips play out in the real world, especially their laptop chips. Let me know your thoughts about AMD in the comments below. Next up, we're quickly talking about the Steam Deck, and Valve has published the most popular games on the Steam Deck as of May of this year. No surprise, number one is Hades 2. Take a look at this list, let me know your thoughts about the most popular games in the comments below. To be honest with you, I'm not really surprised about any of the games on this list. I mean, Hades 2 has been very well received, and Hades 2 has also brought attention to Hades 1, which is an amazing game in its own right. Next up, this is a quick one. If you use ChatGPT, you may have noticed some degraded performance, and that is not just on you, that seems to be across the board. ChatGPT or OpenAI seem to be having some sort of issue. According to OpenAI's status page, ChatGPT has recently had a major outage lasting for over a few hours. Next up, we're talking about PS Multi-Tools, an all-in-one utility with tools and backup manager. For PS1, PS2, PS3, PS4, PS5, PS3, and no surprise, PS Vita. So PS Multi-Tools version 14.2 has just dropped, and this is a pretty big release. The big thing here is that PS Multi-Tools is now available as a full or classic edition. The full edition includes the emulators required. The Classic Edition does not. Interestingly, for PS4 emulation, they chose PS Off as the emulator. PS Multi-Tools is 100% free open source, and I'll drop a link to it in the description below. Next up, we're quickly talking about the Zelda 64 recompilation project, and version 1.1.1 just dropped. So with this update, there's fixes, workarounds, and improvements. For example, shield aiming, holding R will respect the aiming camera axis inversion setting. The Ocarina now accepts D-pad inputs, and there's been a bunch of analog camera improvements. And last up, we're talking about Tropical, which is designed as a simple app that lets you manage your emulators with an easy installation and updating process. targeting heavily 3DS forks. And at the time of filming, Tropical version 1.1 has just dropped with an early Android alpha build. Tropical is 100% free and open source, and I'll drop a link to it in the description below. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and one fluff. We talked about a bunch today. Let me know your thoughts about absolutely any of it in the comments below. If you liked this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate, save your state.